they're disappointed. You know, they would have loved Phil to stick around. They recognise that he's a quality person, a quality player, and you know, we'd always factored him into our future plans. So to have him leave is, you know, I guess leaves a bit of a hole. But at the same time, it creates an opportunity for another young player to step up and fill that position. I think we're pretty focused on what we need to do this week. You know, once again, you know, the guys are professional guys, and you know, whilst Monday was a bit of a shock to them, a lot of them didn't even know that Phil was in negotiations or whatever he'd been doing. So when it came, it was a shock to some of the players, but we've moved on from that now and have Brisbane sort of clearly in our sights.
Some pretty massive claims have been made. Eddie Maguire's come out and gone so far as to say they're cheating. What do you think? Do you think it's as far as that?
Well, look, it's not my job. You know, I don't actually I don't know the ins and outs of what the rules are, and you know, I guess I'm just concentrating on the football element, and you know, as I mentioned before, whilst I would have loved Phil to be around the place, and we rate him as a person and a player, he's not here. So, you know, my attention shifts very quickly to the controllables, which is, you know, how we go about our preparation this week and how we go about playing.
Just on the job that you're doing, the senior coaching job, you've had, I suppose, a game, you've had almost a full week of a settled down normal week. Is it everything you thought it would be, or is it a little bit more? Just give us an insight.
Oh yeah, it's what I thought it would be. There's some things that come up that, like Phil, that you sort of don't see coming and don't expect. But probably the big difference for me is when I look after the forward line. I look after, you know, 8 to 10 players and in contact with them regularly. And obviously when you move beyond that and become the senior coach, obviously you look after more players, you look after coaches, you look after, you know, and deal with medical staff and the like. So it's a broader spectrum of people that you deal with and, you know, that you have to manage. So you need to be right on top of your time management skills.
Talking about looking after players, are you going to bring Tony Armstrong back into the fold?
Well, we haven't finalised the side, but Tony, his form in the SANFL has been outstanding. So, you know, he's one that will come under very strong consideration.
So have you got an outlook that you do want to play this year?
Well, players pick themselves, and Tony is going the right way about picking himself at the moment. In terms of what he's been doing at North Adelaide and the demeanour he's had around this football club, you know, if he continues to do that, he'll pick himself.
Have you got reason to change the squad at all this week?
We look to add to it all the time. There's a little bit of doubt physically on a couple of players, so we need to let that unfold and play out. But it certainly, compared to last week, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it? In terms of the St Kilda game, where we were very unhappy with our attitude and our performance, to this week, where we thought we did a lot of things right. So in terms of will we make a whole heap of change, I wouldn't think we'd make a heap, but that's not to say we mightn't make one or two.
When you say a couple of players, we didn't know anything from the game. Has something happened at training, or is it from...
Oh, just some sore spots from the game.
Mark, it's been a pretty emotional week or two for the players. Do you have to guard against a letdown this week?
Well, it's something we've talked about, not so much the letdown, but just the consistency, and that's been an Achilles heel for us all year, our ability to perform quarter to quarter and week to week. So, you know, it's a big game for us because, you know, you can hear critics that talk about judging our performance on the weekend. You can't take much from that because you always expected change of coach. On the back of a poor performance, there was always going to be a response. So a lot of people have discounted what we did last week and are really keen to see what we do this week. So, you know, it's a really big game for us. Our eyes and people's focus will be firmly upon us again, and we need to be able to perform again.
So do you think this week is the true test of whether anything's changed at all?
I think last week was a test. There's no doubt last week was a test, but part of what I've talked to the players about is being able to replicate that and reproduce it. So, you know, there was some emotion last week, and some blokes their prides were pricked after their performance against St Kilda. And there's a whole range of other issues that happened last week. So now things have settled down a bit. We need to be able to know that we can count on you to be able to produce a really strong performance again.
Mark, I know when you were appointed as caretaker that you didn't put your hand up saying, oh, I definitely want this job next year, but now that you've had a week in it, and a controversial week I suppose at least, and also had a game to coach, do you feel like you're leaning a little more towards this something you might want to do?
Once again, 6 weeks is a good time frame. Just like people wouldn't judge us on one performance after 1 week, I don't think I'll make a decision after 1 week either. There's lots of stuff to do and to let unfold, so we'll just keep letting that unfold.
That win didn't whet your appetite a little bit?
Without being cliched, a week's a long time in football. Let's just let it unfold.
Is it fair to say you definitely want to be a head coach, but you're just not sure whether here and now is the time?
Yeah, I've made that pretty clear from the day I moved into this role, that from going from my previous job to this one, that and I would say that probably 80–90% of guys when they start coaching would hope that it would unfold, that one day they would get that opportunity. So, I'm not backing away from that. I want to do it, but it doesn't mean that I've put a time frame on it. It doesn't mean that I'm in a rush to do it. I want to be really well prepared and give myself the best chance of being successful when I do decide to do it.
What about at the other end now, Talia? Do you want to push that one a little further because now you have to commit to him as a centre back?
I think Daniel's been given a great opportunity over the last month to come into our side. He's earned that spot, and he's progressed really well. One of the things that helps with our young defenders is not only do we have Ben Hart, who I rate enormously as a defensive coach, but also Ben Rutten, who is been around for a long time. Is one of the best defenders in the game, and not only has he been in outstanding form for us this year, he has a really strong teaching element to the way that he goes about his training with the younger guys. So if you look at, Phil Davis, I'm sure would have benefited greatly from, working with Truck. Daniel's the same. Luke Thompson's the same. So those guys have a wonderful advantage over a lot of teams where they've got a guy who's in the game and one of the best exponents of strong key positioning defence, actually taking a real interest in developing them as players.
Just in general, since Neil, when he said he wanted to release the pressure on the playing group, have you noticed that from the players, or change in mood?
Yeah, there's a bit of an attitude change, and that comes about from a number of reasons. One is, you have a win and you have a performance that you're actually proud of as opposed to ashamed of, and you get that nice feeling in your stomach rather than the sick feeling in your stomach. And I guess, the difference in, my personality and my style. Neil and I are different people, and I'm perhaps a little bit more relaxed than what Neil is. And that's not to say that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's just it's different. So it's a different stimulus for the players, and at the moment, that short space of time, it's and the fact that we've had a win, it's a little bit more buoyant.
And the Matthew Gensch shoulder reconstruction, disappointing way to end the season.
Yeah, it is. Matthew has probably been one of the good news stories for our football club this year, and in terms of started the year perhaps as a small crumbing forward who had played a handful of games, and up until he injured his shoulder, he sort of really stamped himself as a defender who can be really attacking, elite by foot, ball skills. So he'd really solidified his position in the team. So disappointing for Matthew, but I guess we need to make sure that we get ourselves organised for next year. And whilst he had the injury probably 3 weeks ago, and there was some chance that he may not have needed the surgery on going back to the surgeon, it's now required. So he gets that done, and we get ourselves organised.